Hello there. So let's look at why laws of attraction works, right? So where did this idea come from? Basically, laws of attraction. Well, basically, science certainly didn't establish something called laws of attraction. What Einstein's famous theory established was E equals mc square, which means energy and matter are interchangeable. And when you use a small amount of matter and that time squared, like at the speed of light squared, which is the conversion rate, it produces even a small amount of matter can produce enormous amounts of energy, right? That's what the equation, the famous equation E equals mc squared, literally established. It certainly didn't mean that therefore laws of attraction exist and therefore the universe is full of energy and therefore you can order what you want and the universe is just going to deliver it to you. It's not like that. However, there is some truth to it. Why do so many laws of attraction coaches and so many manifestation coaches and so many spiritual people and so many others have had this experience or understanding or a certain lived knowledge, right? uh, that something is working. This is something that everyone can see in their day to day life. It's not something isolated only for certain segments of people belonging to certain areas, right? In your day to day life, you can see immediately that you're thinking, what it does to your body, what you set forth in motion in your mind, its impact in your immediate external environment. You can see that for yourself in your day to day life. Let's take for small example. Let's take the example of anger or something, fear, right? You're nervous about something in a particular situation. Let's say somebody's asking you or to talk about a topic on stage. A lot of school students, typically in your growing up years, you would have gone through this, so you'd be able to resonate with this. If you have to make a presentation on a topic, you see how your heart starts to palpitate. You start sweating, you become nervous, your voice shakes, your knees sort of become trembling. Something that's set in motion inwardly, such as fear, has an immediate impact on your external reality, which is your body, in the way you carry yourself, in the way you sound, in the way you present yourself. So, to the world at large, it's so obvious that you're nervous, right? So something in the mind takes a form, a very specific form. The thought is translated into a very specific form outwardly, and in turn, it radiates out to the world, and they in turn pick up the signals. So you can see that there is something that is getting transmitted without you actually announcing to the world, I'm so terrified, I have stage fright, or I'm nervous. You don't have to say that, right? One can see, one can pick up the signals. Now, why is that so? And where is this coming from, right? This is because everything vibrates at a certain frequency. Energy has no form on its own. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but it can be transmuted from one form to another, as Einstein's famous theory established. Energy and matter are interchangeable, right? Energy can go to matter, and matter can in turn become energy. If you understood that, you know that everything in the universe is energy because it cannot be destroyed. Everything, every matter out there, every form out there, you keep on reducing it, reducing it, reducing it, reducing it, reducing it, eventually to the subatomic particle level. All that it is just energy, right? Therefore, everything is energy in the universe. You are a sum total of your energies. I'm a sum total of my energies. Energy can never be destroyed. The physical matter, the body can be destroyed, right? It has its own process of birth, growth, decay, and going back to where it came from, which is energy. So With this understanding, you know that there is a certain frequency. Everything has a certain frequency. Like fear has its frequency, and it has a certain way of reverberating, and expressing itself outwardly, right? The expression of fear is felt in the body, felt in the way your breathing goes up and down erratically, felt in the way your voice shakes. It has its expression. Like so, happiness has its own expression. So everything has a very specific vibrational frequency, right? The brain uses electromagnetic waves. That's a certain frequency, right, in which it vibrates. So, therefore, everything is a certain frequency. So, why does laws of attraction work? If everything is a frequency, if everything is energy, and energy is interchangeable, right? Matter can be changed to energy can be changed to matter. Once you understand that, once you get that, everything can be created by tuning in into the right frequency, by raising your vibrational frequency levels. That's all it matters to. That's all it comes down to, literally. However, and here's the catch, which most people don't talk about. The mind has already set in motion a set of vibrational frequencies, and it's playing itself out right now as your present reality in your life, right? First of all, you need to rewire this. This is what we mean by subconscious patterns. How are you going to rewire something that's already been set in motion? There are multiple ways. Typically, they will say rewire your subconscious patterns by way of affirmations, right? By way of positive thinking, by way of so many different practices and techniques, by way of healing techniques, by way of increase your energy levels, and then pump in all your affirmations, speak about it in the present tense, and so on. We've heard all of that before. But how long is it going to take? That's the question. Because whatever has been set in motion is playing itself out, and there are certain consequences that have to be faced as a result of that, right? You cannot just abruptly bring things to a halt. For instance, if you a pendulum that oscillates in one side will oscillate with equal force in the opposite direction. It never comes and stops here. It'll go in equal force in the opposite direction, right? You can't stop that unless it's a physical thing and you can just hold on to it or something like that, right? But that's not the case. The mind and the energies that you've set forth in motion already through your existing patterns from your childhood, that's already been set in motion. There are things that are playing themselves out. You need to figure out how to undo the damage, how to contain the after effects of what has already been set in motion, and how to now consciously create from this point on a different set of motion, a different set of frequencies. How do we switch on to that? How do we switch this off and how do we switch this on? You can't just rewire something by way of just affirmations alone. Affirmations help a lot. I don't deny that. But that alone won't do. You need to, first of all, understand a little bit of inner work is essential, a little bit of understanding as to who you are, in the sense, what are these subconscious patterns? What is fear? What is guilt? What is anger? What is this violence inside that erupts so with such volatility outside, right? That it's so overwhelming in that moment that you just can't pull yourself together and get to grips with it, right? Because it's a pattern that's been set in motion a long time ago. It's deeply ingrooved. It's a deep engraving and impression in your brain. So to undo that, you can't keep pulling by way of memory each and every incident that has given rise to a particular anger or a particular fear or something or the other like that. You can't explore each and every emotion like that. Therefore, what is the one thing that you need to understand? You need to understand how thought operates, not how a particular fear came about, not how a particular emotion came about. Because if it's not this one particular instance that triggered this emotion, there's going to be another, some other stimuli that's going to come, or some other memory that you've probably long forgotten. How far back can memory go to serve you, right? And you don't even know if you're, whatever you think as the particular instances in this life is merely an expression of a larger movement in the stream of human consciousness, right? These are just particular expressions and outlets for it. And that stream is a much larger movement. And that is endless, endless fear, endless guilt, endless violence, because the world is going on. People keep adding volume to these emotions by way of living it out, feeling the feelings, feeling the emotions. And in turn, that human consciousness, that universal stream, these emotions keep getting added on to. The volume gets pumped up. That is never ending. What you think is a particular emotion you're feeling is not, may not be as isolated as you think. But don't worry about it at this stage. Right now, just understand that it's important fundamentally to live your life, navigate through this world that you're living in successfully, and to create what you want meaningfully, right, and sustain it. You need to have an understanding of who you are. That is what I mean by sustainable manifestation. And therefore, it is essential for you to understand how thought operates, because everything starts from thought, everything is triggered there, right? So you need to understand, have an understanding of how the thought processes work, what the mind is made up of, what you are made up of. When we say you are your thoughts, we somehow understand that. But when I say you are your identity, people have difficulty understanding that or wrapping their heads around it. But literally, it means the same thing, put it another way, right? Therefore, we need to understand what the identity called me, I, is. This doesn't mean you're going to leave everything, you're going to lose your family, you're going to give up on everything and become a monk or something like that. But this basic fundamental understanding is essential, don't you think? You don't even know who you are, and you're trying to create so many other things about or around you. How can you sustain it? How can such manifestation hold good in the long run for you? It need not be a blueprint. Whatever you desire need not be a blueprint for the next 10 years of your life. It could be something, let's say you wish for something to happen in 6 months down the line and you need to manifest and you use techniques, this, that, and the other. But you need to understand if this is the right thing for you. This is what I mean by manifestation happens not just when your frequency matches and attraction happens. Manifestation is truly sustainable, right? And attraction will happen when there is alignment. And that alignment can only come as a result of clarity. And that clarity can only come when you understand who you are. So that's what manifestation done right is all about. And that's what I teach in my courses, not just give you techniques for manifesting. Of course, there are techniques involved. You need to know how to do manifestation practices. You need to know how to do affirmations. You need to know how to do healing. You need to know so many things, right? There are rules for affirmations and so on. But will that alone be enough? Is it enough to just pump up your energy in that moment while your deep underlying belief systems refuses to accept what your outward mind is saying about what you're capable of creating? When you've lived for a very, 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 very long time, you don't even know when it began, your limiting beliefs or your inner resistances. Everything you choose from your subconscious, right? Only you don't know you're choosing only you think, or rather, let me put it this way, you think you're choosing, but it's actually an autopilot operating out of. Every decision you make is made out of these patterns. These patterns, which have not surfaced or shown reared their heads out to the conscious level of your awareness. It's hiding beneath your conscious level of awareness. And you think you're conscious of everything. You think just because you climb onto the stage and you were about to speak about a particular topic, and the fear that hits you, you think you know about your fear. But do you? You think fear is just a matter of an episodic instance that just pops up in particular instances during particular experiences alone? You need to understand what fear is. You have to face it. In facing it, not by recalling and rekindling every experience in your life, because that will be endless. That Pandora's box you can open all you want, but that's going to be endless. Because the more you dig into this, the more you'll find so many instances coming up, so many instances coming up. And it'll be an exhausting journey. Instead, face, face the thing that's come out of each of these episodes and each of these experiences in your life. What is the residual juice that you got out of it? Fear. What is the residual juice you got out of something when somebody pushed your button? Anger. What is the residual juice you get out of something when somebody has left you, or somebody passed away, or something that you were so attached to has gone out of your life? Sorrow. What is the residual juice that you get out of endless conflict in your mind? Suffering. Those are the things that you need to actually look at. Not just, oh, but I suffered because this happened. Oh, you know what? When I was 6 years old, somebody slapped me in front of others. Oh, when I was 20, somebody said a nasty word to me. That's why. If you keep counting on these experiences and these episodes, there'll be plenty and it'll be endless. And the mind has a way of filtering experiences, right? Because over a period of time, there are these limiting beliefs, has a way of making you feel on the defense all the time, defending yourself and protecting yourself all the time, that you become like a victim. And that victim mentality will have a way of magnifying something uh, that need not be as exaggerated as it projects itself out to be now, because over a period of time, it's justified its actions by way of magnifying every experience that added to this fundamental emotion called suffering, or fundamental emotion called anger. Therefore, it's important that you don't just keep digging this Pandora's box of your past experiences or episodes. Instead, face just the emotions that's driving your life trajectory, that is set forth in motion every decision you make, every choice you make, every action you make, every thought you think, every word you speak, the vibration that it has set forth in motion. And that decides your reality as you experience. Therefore, laws of attraction, yes, it works. Is everything energy? Yes. Is energy interchangeable? It's established by science. Yes. Can you use energy to create? Absolutely. Can you create infinitely? The answer to that is obvious. When you live as a limited entity, the moment you say, I am this, that, and the other, you formed a limitation around yourself. You've already drawn a boundary as to what you are. How can a limited something approach something that's infinite? It cannot even fathom what infinite is. It can project what infinite is according to what it understands infinite to be, but it will still be a projection and a boundary drawn. You follow what I'm saying? So, in short, to answer, laws of attraction works. The extent to which you create, you're capable of creating, is the extent to which you expand inwardly by way of raising your vibrations, by way of changing, tuning into the right frequencies. Now, how to go about tuning into the right frequency? Not just by way of affirmations and techniques, but also by way of understanding who you are. You follow? And for that is what uh, I mean when I say manifestation done right. So, for those of you who are interested in exploring this further with me, either as a private one to one call or as part of my group coaching, explore my workshop pages, which is workshop.manifestationdoneright.com. Explore my website, which is priyakannan.in. I've given the description below. And you can get all the information under my website, under one roof, about the work I do, my workshops, the courses I take, my speaking engagements, the books I've written, and everything else about me. You can get it all in that place, right? So, thank you for listening in and watching this podcast on quantum self. I hope to see you again soon. Take care and thank you.